Hello everyone. Today I want to do an update since it's the beginning of the year. I would like to do an update on my Korean progress in current language ability. So I've been doing Korean for about 8-ish months, about as long as Cloudy Howdy, who is like a pretty big member in the Refold community. And he's been going for about 8 months, and I've been going as long as him, probably for the most part. I think I started it back in like June. I think that was around when he started, something like that. But anyway, I've been going for about 8-ish months. And basically, I just want to give an update since it's the beginning of the year. And I kind of want to start tracking my progress. And even though I'm 8 months in, it's better to start now than later, I guess. And so since it's the beginning of the year, I would like to kind of give an update about where I think my Korean language level is at. The particular goals that I have, the method that I use, and my long-term goals for a year, 2 years, things like that. So basically, the method that I use is the mass immersion approach. This has evolved from AJAT, which was all Japanese all the time, to MIA, which is the mass immersion approach, now to the Refold approach. And basically, what all these methods, the common property that all these methods have, is immersion learning, and using an SRS system to kind of be familiar with the words or vocabulary in the language, and to acquire those particular words via immersion, given reading, audio, visual, things like that. So that's basically what I've been doing for about 8 months. It's the number one thing I've been doing. Anki, I just use a sprinkle of Anki here and there, and I probably go longer on Anki than probably most people. I know people who use Anki, which is a spaced repetition flashcard system. They use it for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. For me, it takes a little longer. So it takes about 30 minutes to an hour sometimes. And I don't know really why that is. I don't know if it's simply my focus or how detailed I am with the cards. But yeah, it takes me a little bit longer for most people. But still, compared out of my whole language learning, or my language routine, rather, it's very minute. Majority of my time, I would say about the majority of the day is either browsing YouTube in Korean or watching dramas, animations, things like that in Korean. And that has greatly helped. I also use a program called Substa SRS to basically take shows with subtitle files, and it makes Anki cards out of them. So basically, I follow along with the show using the Anki cards, and it kind of helps me retain vocabulary in its given context that it was in the show, which is very helpful. Especially, it's even more helpful if you've already seen the show, I found. So that pretty much has helped me a lot acquire words. The current deck that I'm doing is Jangu, or in Japanese, it's Crown Shinchan, I think. And yeah, I've been doing that deck for a bit. I've already completed the I Am, which is a web drama series, which was pretty decent in my opinion. Unfortunately, it was rather short. But yeah, I completed that one, and I'm currently going through the Jangu deck, and I've had a lot of fun with that so far. I also have been using Retro's sentence deck, which I feel has been pretty effective, and basically it takes essential vocabulary, about 1,500 words, and puts them in sentences, and I think that sentence mining is pretty effective. But for my personal deck, I use a combination of both just pictures or single word cards and sentence cards. But majority of the words in my personal deck that I've made are just single word cards with pictures. I use all my sentence decks through the SRS decks and through Retro's particular deck. And that seems to have worked for me. And I don't use Morphman, but if I was to guess the words I've acquired, both passive and active, I think it's probably somewhere close to about 3,000 at this point, if not 3,000. So it's somewhere in that ballpark. So yeah, my goal for the end of this year is to hopefully get to at least, my main goal is to get to about 5,000 words, but I don't know if that's possible, nor do I have that as a hard goal to stress myself with, but I'm really hoping that I get at least 4,000 words by the end of this year. So yeah, basically, that's my language ability so far, in terms of raw word acquisition. In terms of listening comprehension, my listening comprehension is pretty solid. I listen to a lot of Korean. Probably not. I don't know if I listen to probably like the most in the community, but I listen to like a lot of Korean every day. Um, at least like I noticed that on the weekends I listen to less because I spend time with family and I do other errands and activities during that time. And I like to listen to music, and so I've been trying to get into the habit of either just listening to solely Korean music or just automatically turning on a podcast. But admittedly, I've been falling behind on that. I like listening to music, so I kind of get drawn into doing that. But when I get home or during the week, I'm always like listening to Korean all the time. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how I spend my days. Um, so, like, in terms of reading, my reading, before I did the mass immersion approach, I had studied Korean on and off for about a good few months prior. And so I had been reading Korean rather frequently before that. So I would say that my reading comprehension is probably better than my listening comprehension since I read more. And it's kind of weird. Structured books I don't tend to read, but I'll read like blips of stuff here and there. So I'll read a wiki article in Korean, comments, subs, things like that. And those surprisingly help, even though it's not structured reading. I would say I probably fall behind a lot in structured reading. I really want to get caught up and complete Yonsei this year. That's one of the main goals I have. I really want to get the Yonsei readings out the way, and I want to increase how many webtoons I go through. I've also have used I'm going to use. It should come this week. The Ollie Richards beginner short stories in Korean. I hope I can get through quite a bit of that book when it comes. So yeah, I have a lot of reading goals for this year, particularly for this month. That's one of the main goals I have this month is to use a lot of reading material and to basically increase my reading to where it at to a better position, a better spot. I noticed that reading is something that I struggle with, especially in the structured sense, because I can like read Korean. I can read like 5 or 6 word sentences, no problem. When we start getting to like 10 word sentences or like compound sentences, I've noticed that's where I tend to struggle the most. And I want to really get out of that. And I think I can do that within a month or two if I just read, just like I listen, read every single day. And so that's pretty much my goal. And I really hope to accomplish that by February. By the end of this year, my goal is to start outputting, but not just raw outputting, like me just sitting and trying to practice to output or to have a conversation. But I really want to start reading aloud. That's really what I want to start doing, is outputting in that sense. Really want to read aloud and compare that to my second year update, main update, where I expect my reading output to be drastically better than it is now. But I hope by the end of this year I have something solid, a good demarcation to base my progress on. So I'm really hoping for that. Pretty much that's my main goal for this year, is to really hit Korean hard, increase my listening comprehension as I've been doing for the past 8 months, and definitely work on my reading. I plan on getting a lot of reading done. I really want to knock out the Yonsei readings. I'm on Yonsei level 2, and I've been like slogging my way for that. And it's not that it's necessarily hard. Yonsei is just really boring, especially, and it's really tedious too, since you can't copy the words. Since it's like a PDF scan, I can't copy any of the words. I could use an OCR, but there's not many good OCRs out there that I would like to use. So I just type the words manually, and a lot of times, like, it's just boring, and I don't type the fastest in Korean. I don't really need to, at this point in my learning. I type well enough to make my learning fluid. But yeah, so that's pretty much, what I have to do. I just have to, there's a user in there called Not Satan, and Not Satan is just like, you need to get like tea or coffee or whatever, and you just need to sit there and go through it. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do. See how much I can do for an hour or two a day, how many Yonsei readings I can get through. And I really want to get to Yonsei 3, and hopefully, I don't know if it's possible, but hopefully before June hits, I really hope to get to just complete Yonsei 4. I just want to completely get done with it. There's a lot of good words and vocabulary in there, and I really want to acquire a lot of that. And also during that time, I'm going to be doing the Ollie Richard, both Koroso 30분, and I'm also going to be doing, like I said, the Ollie Richards, beginner short stories or whatever. So hopefully by then, I should be really, really confident in my reading, and basically, hopefully, increase my active vocabulary by a lot because of the constant repetition of the reading. So, really, really excited. Maybe by the end of this year, I'll do a little bit of just raw output, but I'm not sure. I really just want to focus on my reading output. Just reading a paragraph or a text and just seeing how that sounds, and hopefully comparing it over time. Another thing too I think that I really want to do, but I haven't set it in stone yet. I don't know if I want to do it, and I forget the name of the site. I'll post it in the description once I remember the name of it. But it was recommended by GigaChad and in the LTI server, language learning through immersion. And basically, what that website consists of is basically has a structured test to basically test both reading and listening comprehension. And it's been recommended by her, and I've gone through it, and I sucked, but I could tell that it was really thorough. And I want to test my progress with that. I might take the test once a month or once every 2 months and see how well my comprehension and how my score can get via that test. I did all right, I guess, for a beginner when I first took it. Admittedly, I was just guessing the whole time. Not the whole time, but there was a lot of parts that it was just like too hard, and I just had to go with like my gut feeling and guess based off the words I didn't know in a particular sentence or audio clip. And so I basically had to put my best answer or my best foot forward and hope the best came from it. And and to be honest, that was perfect because it gave me a really good baseline to work with. And so hopefully it's not a set in stone goal. It's not something I really care about per se, tests and things like that. But maybe that's something I'll do. And if I do, I'll probably do a video about it, hopefully. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm pretty excited for this year. I really want to see how I really want to see how and where my Korean goes. How and where that didn't make any sense. But where my Korean goes. I really want to see that. I'm just very excited. I want to see the progress that I can make. I think I've done quite a bit in the past 8 months. I mean, this is the furthest I've gotten with any language I've studied. I've done Vietnamese in the past, and let me tell you this: it was nowhere near my Korean as that after about a year. And so it hasn't even been a full year yet since I've started, and I've done like far more than I've far more in Korean than I have in Vietnamese, and so I'm pretty excited. So it gives me so much motivation. But every once in a while you have those moments where like you're demotivated, and so you just I have depression, so like a lot of times if I get demotivated, that really like hurts me and impacts me in a way. But with like Korean, since it's something I really enjoy, and I just have so much encouragement from the communities that I haven't really even thought about, that I just go with the flow and just like immerse, and I just have so much fun with it. Another thing that I think this is set in stone, a goal that I have. A lot of people in the community, they're very orderly in the way they keep track of their progress. So they constantly keep track of their time for passive, active immersion, reading, things like that. And that's something I really want to do. In the beginning, I wasn't really focused on that since I was just enjoying Korean. Like I integrated Korean basically into a big part of my life, and I just did it, And I put in time where I had, and I just instead of marking stuff and tracking stuff, I was just like, I'll just watch Korean YouTube all day. I barely look at my English YouTube. I have 2 accounts. I have one solely for Korean and one for English content. And sometimes like days will go by where I don't even open my English one, to check on like, updates that I might be interested in, things like that. I just, solely do Korean. And, that helps. As you can see here, I'm playing Moonlighter right now. And I play a lot of video games in Korean. I play Genshin Impact, Moonlighter, and Hollow Knight, and some other games. But those are the 3 main games I play in Korean. And Moonlighter is by far the easiest to play in terms of comprehension. It's very fun to play. I'm not that good at the game, as you can see, but it's very, very fun to play. And a lot. It's very satisfying to understand, the various texts and stuff that come throughout the game. It's just those little things, go a long way. And so if I just keep encouraging myself with that, I just know that it's just one of those things, you're going to get good after a certain period of time. Like, I have no, like, high expectations after, like, a year or 2, really. Like, I have expectations, but I try to just go with the flow on a lot of things. Just keep my head down and just, like, see where it takes me. I remember when I was younger, I used to play, like, these math games, right? And it would be like a race to see who could get to the end of the finish line. It was like a computer game. I forget the site, but I would play it, and you would see who could type the answers the fastest. And I remember, like, I was always slower if I always looked at where the other person was on the map, and the time. But if I just kept my head down, focused on the problems, and just typed them in as fast as I could, I pretty much would win almost every time, or I would be very impressed on how far I got throughout the map. I forget what the map site was called. Probably doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, that's pretty much how I'm approaching Korean. I keep my head down, I go for the method, and I do as much as I can. And every time I peek my head up every once in a while, as I'm doing with this update, I look back and I'm like, oh, I'm pretty impressed on where I'm at. And so, yeah, that's pretty much my update in a nutshell. Keep moving forward. I have set goals for myself, and I just hold myself to them. Of course, I fall short. Like I said in the beginning, I like music, and not all the music I listen to that I like is in Korean, right? And so a lot of times I have the habit, instead of turning on Korean news on my phone or a podcast or watching a video, I'll go to Spotify and turn on Joji or whatever, right? And I'll just listen to that because I like that type of music. And so really having the self-control and the motivation to, like, when I go for walks or whatever, to always have a Korean podcast going on default, it's just a habit I have to build. It's discipline, essentially, plenty of other time, to possibly listen to music, right? A lot of people have stuff that they like, but you got to find the place, and you have to know, am I using my time the best? And it's pretty much what Katsumoto said, it's almost a game, see how much you can Japanese your life or how much you can Koreify your life, that's pretty much the goal. And so if I see an area where I need to improve, or I feel like I could spend more time in that area, like when I'm walking or if I'm shopping, things like that, instead of listening to music, you could have listened to a podcast, how far could you have gotten today if you would have listened to that podcast? Maybe you would have found a word that you had reviewed in your SRS, that you've been looking for. That sometimes happen. I find that a lot of times, a word that sometimes I put rare words every once in a while in my SRS. And, when am I ever going to find that word in my reading or my listening? And sometimes, that word just pops up and it sticks with you. And it's like, it's ingrained now. And so you gotta find a way. And so that's pretty much, my biggest goal, besides reading, is to really find the time to really limit as much English stuff as possible. More Korean, more chances to hear words. It's that simple. And so yeah, I don't want to make this too long. As you can tell with my ums and sometimes recorrections, that this is off the cuff. I'm not a really good editor, nor am I a really good let's say I get kind of shy, recording shy a bit. So sometimes um, I feel like I stutter a bit when I speak. But I just wanted to get an update out there, since it's the new year. I didn't get a chance to do it at the beginning because I've been busy, holidays, things like that, family. So I didn't get to really do an update, at the beginning of the year. But, I said, I still, now or never, so I said, let me get an update out during this month. So, yeah, so that's pretty much the update that I want to give. Hopefully my videos become more structured in the future. Like I said, I just wanted to throw something out. I really enjoy the people supporting the community and how they've helped me, learning the new technologies and learning the various methods to approach, reading, listening, things like that, and how to really make myself better, at what I want to achieve. And so, that's pretty much it for me. If you have any questions or if you want to say something, just put it in the comments. I like reading the comments. I'll read them. And if you guys have any input or you guys want to say anything, just type it down there. I don't really care if you subscribe or like or whatever. I guess the only benefit that would be is more people will find the video. Hopefully, if you do that, it will make it more popular. So if you could do that, that would be appreciated. Well, anyway, thank you guys for your time. I hope to maybe make an update in about 2 months from now. I don't know if I will. That's not a set in stone goal, but it's up there. Maybe if I have time, I'll do it. But anyway, thank you guys once again for your time, and hopefully you hear more from me in the future. See ya.